Here in this video, we will be going over everything you need to know for the final day before Tesla earnings and whether or not Tesla stock is going higher tomorrow. Ain't that right? You think it's going higher? You think it's going higher? It's going higher, huh? Yeah, it's going higher. No? Maybe? Maybe so? I don't know. I don't know how I take this arbitrage indicator. In all seriousness, we will be going over the secret sauce for Tesla's earnings coming tomorrow. The really one thing that is going to dictate what happens with Tesla stock. And unfortunately, with this earnings season in particular, there's a lot on the line. And if we're judging off of the last 4 earnings, well, we really haven't gotten anything good. We've gotten nothing. In fact, we're not getting an optimistic Tesla. We're getting a downbeat Tesla. We're not getting a Tesla that's giving guidance. We're in fact getting a Tesla that's throwing uncertainties out there. No guidance at all. But it has become apparent that maybe Elon Musk has a surprise for us coming tomorrow with Tesla's earnings. I'll share what that surprise could be and how it could affect Tesla stock. Keep in mind, I am subject to be wrong. The only thing I am doing here in this video is sharing my opinion, what I think is going to happen, why I think it's going to happen, if I'm bullish, if I'm bearish, and it's just my opinion. So come to your own conclusions based off of a lot of different opinions you're going to hear today and what you've heard over the last couple of weeks. And let me know down below in the comment section, are you bullish? Are you bearish heading into Tesla earnings coming tomorrow? And let's be quite honest, I think the markets would be okay with either unit growth or, just bottom line profitability growth. Any kind of growth right now would be seen as good news for Tesla. And that's really the number one thing that investors are looking for tomorrow. And it's not about what happened over the last 3 months. It's about what's going to happen over the next 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and 12 months. So I'll just go ahead and give it to you straight. Things do not look great for Tesla stock right now, as Tesla is in the 140s, almost in the 130s. You're not set up in an optimal position from a momentum standpoint. The momentum has definitely been to the downside in recent weeks and really just months. But I will also be honest and say that Tesla stock in the 140s sets you up in a better position than if the stock was on a multi-month rally heading into earnings. Now, I'm sure all of us, most of us, would take the multi-month rally if you are kind of the next 2 to 3 year oriented investor. If you're a longer term investor, you want the stock to obviously sell off as low as possible. And I'm honestly just fine with either direction. If this thing rallies big after earnings or falls big after earnings, I'm perfectly content either way. I'll buy more stock. I'll hold my stock. I'll sell some calls on my stock. It really doesn't matter. I'm cool with any direction. But the fact that you are in the 140s does set you up better for a potential upside move, because Tesla in the 140s is pricing just bad news all around. Just bad news. But I do think Tesla in the 140s is still giving Tesla the benefit of the doubt in regards to the next wave of growth for Tesla. It's clear. Tesla said in writing they are between 2 waves of growth. That's obvious. Okay, a wave of growth, just kind of reading between the lines here, is like a year, maybe half a year. That's what Wall Street's looking at, not multiple years of no growth. From the institutional investor perspective surrounding Tesla, the only way that we get further growth from here is the Robo taxi down the line. That's a longer term game. And the Model 2, which is your second half of 2025 new product. At least that is the prior forecast we had from Tesla. There is no expectation that the Model 3, Model Y, or Cybertruck will feel any kind of unit volume growth for Tesla. Now, that could obviously happen, but the main key towards tomorrow and whether or not Tesla stock does good or bad comes down to the robotaxi and the Model 2. Tesla has apparently put the Model 2 for consumers on the back burner. Not canceled it, but on the back burner, which means it could be years away. Whereas they're focusing on robotaxi. As Elon Musk has said himself, he's full tilt. Tesla is all in on the robotaxi and autonomy. But does that all in mean still a couple of years? Or does it mean in the relatively near-term future? That's what is going to dictate whether or not Tesla stock goes higher. When are we expecting to get the robotaxi? The Model 2 for customers will obviously be important, but think about it like this. If we get the Model 2 in any capacity, that's going to be good news. Whether it is the robotaxi coming in the second half of 2025, beginning of 2026, or it's the consumer Model 2. Best case scenario would be Tesla saying, hey, we're going to get both the consumer Model 2s out and the robotaxi out second half of 2025. I think that's pretty optimistic. That's not my base case. That's not what I'm expecting. But if that did happen, if that's what is said, that would be very positive news for Tesla stock. And I would expect Tesla could go up 20+% following earnings. Now, as I said in the beginning of this video, I do think Elon Musk could have a surprise for us in terms of the robotaxi. Now, big money, someone like Dan Ives that is very bullish on robotaxi and actually thinks it will come at some point, he still thinks 6 to 7 years down the line for a robotaxi network. I think Elon Musk is going to provide some guidance that is a lot more optimistic than that. That's really going to make Wall Street say, hey, does Tesla know where robotaxi is going or where autonomy is going with a lot more clarity than we do? Of course they do, right? But Wall Street thinks they have everything figured out. But if Tesla comes out and says, hey, we could be getting the robotaxis out on the road second half of 2025, maybe the first half or second quarter of 2025, that would be some sweet, sweet profits for Tesla stock investors. Now, why I'm saying this is because of this post. I shared this in the last video, but I want to highlight it again here, just in the sense of this is the day before earnings. This is the last video that you will watch from this channel before Tesla's earnings. And this is from Charity Trades. It says, according to James Doma, Elon/Tesla can see up to 6 months ahead of what the public has access to. If V12.4 should indeed arguably be called V13, according to Musk, he's likely seen a breakthrough. Okay. Elon Musk says James is largely correct. We know roughly what the car will do in 3 to 6 months. When a more advanced AI model is trained, it will have several breakthroughs, but also dozens of bugs where it performs much worse. It takes a few months to fix those bugs and complete safety tests. Which this gives me a fair amount of confidence that maybe Elon could surprise investors. Again, given Dan Ives is expecting the robotaxi in 6 to 7 years. Even in a bear case scenario, if you were to have Elon in a room today with closed doors, no mics, no audios over a Tesla shot of Tesla tequila or some cyber beer or whatnot, Elon would say, even in a bad case scenario, like 2 to 3 years. But I think that's a bad case scenario. I think a more realistic scenario in Elon's mind, in the Tesla team's mind, if they're really going to delay the consumer Model 2, is probably second half of 2025. That's still over a year away. That's like 14 months away. At the rate of improvement of FSD, the biggest hurdle at this point, I don't think, is the vehicles. 14 months from now, the biggest hurdle will be Tesla accepting liability. But then again, how does Cruise or Waymo or anyone else operate robotaxis? They take responsibility, okay? When the product is as good as, what Elon is suggesting it is, or this new upgrade coming should be called V13, suggesting it's much better than current variations of FSD out on the road today, then I think that could be a safe assumption to make, that Tesla could assume liability in the next 14 to 15, 16 months or so and get the robotaxi network up and operational. It's not going to run at full steam ahead at first. It's going to be a slow and steady process. But as long as investors can start to model what the robotaxi network could look like over time, and it's not a 6 to 7 year down the line endeavor, that's where Tesla stock could rally big time on these earnings. Because again, it doesn't matter what the EPS is or what the revenue is. We kind of already know what things are going to look like for Tesla, since Tesla gives their delivery numbers about 2 to 3 weeks before they report earnings. It only matters what's coming next, and specifically What's going to fill that growth void for Tesla without the consumer Model 2? It has to be the robotaxi network. Now, I will tell you on a little bit of good news as well. Wall Street's not paying attention to this, but if you're an investor here in Tesla and you're watching this video, you're going to know about this. The Cybertruck is exploding in Google Trends data. Exploding. The highest levels it's been ever before, besides the day of the launch for the Cybertruck, which this was mostly investors in Tesla. This is mostly organic search trend activity, whether people are seeing memes on Facebook, seeing celebrities posting about the Cybertruck, or seeing them in real life. That's what's driving this search activity right now. And it's such a polarizing product, you would expect higher searches for the Cybertruck could lead into higher deliveries or higher inquiries at the bare minimum for the Model 3 and the Model Y. The Model Y went from 30 to 48. The Cybertruck went from 63 to 68. And even the Model 3 went from 24 to 29. Even the Model S and the Model X are exploding. Model S from 11 to 14 and the Model X from 9 to 12, which are very high for those two specific models. So that's just my opinion. Maybe I'm, delusionally optimistic, but I do think the robotaxi is likely still coming second half of 2025. Tesla's putting their efforts into that to get that ready by second half of 2025 instead of consumer deliveries for the Model 2. Like, what would you rather have? The robotaxi launching in the second half of 2025, the end all be all, the reason why people were bullish on Tesla back in 2021 when Tesla was a $400 stock, it was because of the robotaxi. If that comes sooner than expected, that's huge, and massive earnings growth, as well as revenue growth would come along with that. Or would you rather have consumer deliveries on the Model 2 that sells for $25,000, which optimistically could have a 20 to 22% profit margin? That's optimistic. It would take a while to get up to, 20+% margins on that. Which one would you rather take? 100,000 robotaxis out on the road? 100,000 consumer Model 2s out on the road? Of course you would take the robotaxis. And I think that's where Wall Street is kind of off sides right now. They're saying, hey, consumer deliveries on the Model 2 getting pushed back, super negative. Robotaxi getting pushed forward, well, not that positive. I think that's massively positive, and I think the Model 2's getting delayed for consumers is slightly negative relative to the robotaxi. Now, I think as well, heading into Tesla earnings, Tesla is oversold. It's sitting at an RSI of 27.85. Normally, when you get down to 30, Tesla stock tends to bounce, and I think that's probably what comes next, okay? Just given that metric, the last time Tesla stock did get even more oversold than where you are now was back here. Tesla stock got to about 17, 18 on the RSI, and that was towards the end of January, and that was after Tesla's last earnings. And let's be honest, Tesla stock has fallen 9+% 4 earnings in a row. Like, could it fall another 10+%? Of course. I think the odds start to tilt towards a bigger upside surprise, especially as Tesla has already sold off heading into the earnings. I would like to actually point out on that note, Nvidia. It's a perfect example of how this works and what I'm trying to explain. Nvidia, before their last earnings, Nvidia sold off 1.68%, sold off 0.1%, sold off 4.35%, and then sold off 3%. Nvidia, well, sold off quite a bit. 10% before their earnings. What happened? It lowered expectations. It reset expectations down to a reasonable level. Nvidia comes out with better than expected earnings, revenue, and guidance. And what happens? Nvidia was up 16.5% the next day. If Nvidia reported the same earnings and not sold off before, the stock would have been up like 4 or 5%. I'm confident in that. After all, from the point in which you were selling off before, you literally only would have rallied about 5.5%. Instead, you rallied 16%. Now, you can make an argument, what's better, what's worse. Maybe you'd rather just see a, continued rally and a 5% pop afterwards, but that's not the point. Tesla stock is where it is today after a big fall. You're more likely set up for a big rise coming tomorrow. Obviously, I could be wrong. And I really don't have much money on what I'm saying here. Like, my position is growing quite large in Tesla, but options wise, short-term trades, I don't have that much exposure to an upside move in Tesla stock right now. I do plan to get some coming tomorrow. So if you guys want to see my trades there, check that link out down below in the description of this video. But I do think you want to be pretty careful trading Tesla options coming tomorrow on either side, right? Calls and puts. And that's because Tesla is pricing in plus or minus over 9%, around 10%. That's a lot. So basically, if you buy options, puts, or calls, you have to see Tesla move over 10% just to break even, to start making money. If you get a 20% move higher, 20% move lower, that's where you make some money. And I'm fairly confident, I wouldn't say super confident, but fairly confident Tesla stock can move much higher. Now, I was hoping that Tesla was going to also focus on immediate near-term profitability as well. And that would mean not cutting prices. You've seen the layoff part of that. And that could have meant Tesla would become a lot more profitable. We don't have a lot of clarity. We don't know what's going on, why Tesla's laying off all of these people and still cutting prices. Maybe the layoffs offset the price reductions that we just seen. $2,000 basically across the board for the US and Canada. Maybe. I've heard some people trying to make that argument. I think if you put the numbers behind it, that's still net negative for overall net margins for Tesla. But it's possible that maybe the reduction in staff helps offset the, the amount that Tesla has to pay to run their business, and maybe offset the price reductions that we just seen. Now, Tesla stock today, as far as the options, had 1,188 different orders, totaling $1.21 billion with a positive order value of 40%. So a pretty high dollar amount today for Tesla options. Tomorrow is going to be a really, really big day for Tesla options as well, especially heading into earnings. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of hedging. I'm sure you're going to get a lot of speculators speculating in Tesla, and I'm expecting a couple $2 billion in option activity for Tesla nonetheless. It was slightly negative, though, with the positive order value of 40%. It definitely could have been a little bit better. And I will also tell you one of the reasons in which I'm fairly confident Tesla stock could move big to the upside, 10 to 20% coming tomorrow, is because of the short position in Tesla. Again, Wall Street's basically saying Tesla's not going to have growth for years. I'm saying Tesla could have growth again at the same timeline they put prior, when Tesla, was trading at in between 180 and 200. Right? The second half of 2025, Tesla was very clear. Model 2, second half of 2025. Instead, they've said, hey, we're going to wait on the consumer Model 2s. We're going to focus on the Robotaxi first. I presume that still means second half of 2025. It could mean 2026, 2027. I really don't know. But I would assume that would just mean they think they can get the Robotaxi network up and operational by then. And if that's true, I think a lot of shorts will start to cover on short positions, and that can also help to fuel a lot of buying pressure, not to mention the retail investors and recent institutional investors that have also sold out of Tesla stock and or tax loss harvested Tesla stock from last year. Now, you do have short interest of free float at multi-year highs at 3.88%, $15.81 billion currently in short positions. You have days to cover sitting at 1.09. You have 107.51 million shares currently sold short. Shares out on loan at about 26 million. And look at the cost of borrow fees again, guys. Today, still sitting at 356.42% as we close out the trading day today. Which cost of borrow fees that high? Say, hey, there's a lot of people that want to get into short positions in Tesla because this works on supply and demand. If there's 10 million shares or, individuals that want to short one share piece, just call it 10 million shares that need to be shorted. And there's 2 billion shares that are eligible or able to be shorted. Those cost of borrow fees are going to be pretty high relative to, vice versa. If there's 10 million shares outstanding that can be sold short, that can be borrowed against, and there's 2 billion shorts, 2 billion shares that want to, take on a short position, cost of borrow fees are going to be lower. So this just suggests that there's a lot of interest into shorting Tesla stock today, and you can see Tesla stock is down 3.4%, down another 0.2% here in after hours. right before earnings to see Tesla stock fall this much. I mean, I think you're crazy to not think Tesla could rally tomorrow. Okay. Tesla stock has fallen 22.5% from, the peak of April 9th to the low of the day today. In about 2 weeks, the stock has fallen over 22%. Yeah, I'll take those odds. I'll take those odds of an upside move or an upside surprise coming after Tesla earnings. Question is it enough to trade options? Is it enough to, go over 10%? I don't have that answer. But even here towards the end of the day, the RSI is going down more at 27.84. And again, Tesla being under 30 is typically a good time to be the contrarian and go bullish on Tesla. Now, if you do take a look here, the 147 line was the level I have had marked here on the charts for a while now. You're under that. You're at $141.70 per share. If Tesla stock does not give us definitive guidance on the Robotaxi and or the Model 2, Dan Ives could be correct and you could get a re-rating in Tesla. And unfortunately, at these prices, a big drop for Tesla starts to get really ugly. A big drop for Tesla, let's say 12%, would put Tesla stock back at $125 per share. Let's say a 12% rally from here would put Tesla stock at about $160. So not that impressive to the upside because relatively speaking, we were just there. So I think an upside move could be larger, maybe, 20, 25% if we get the right news. Could put Tesla stock back in the 170s. If we get a 15% drawdown coming tomorrow, that would put Tesla stock at about $120. If we get a 20% drawdown coming tomorrow, that's going to put Tesla stock at about $114 per share. So I don't do this to scare you guys, but I think you have to be prepared because there's not a lot of support here. If things are bad tomorrow, you're going back down to $100 per share over the next couple of weeks. Now, ultimately, I think that's a great buying opportunity. I am under the firm assumption that you make money when you buy a stock at a good price. If you buy a stock that's overvalued at a, elevated valuation, you may or may not make money, right? There's so many examples of this, but like Cisco back in the .com era. If you bought Cisco at all-time highs, you've still never made money. If you bought Cisco before everyone loved it, when everyone hated it back in, 95, 96, 97, 98, you've still made a crap ton of money. It's more important when you buy a stock. And I think the lower Tesla goes, obviously, the better buy it is. But tomorrow, let me just tell you, is going to be the most important earnings for Tesla, probably this entire year. Let me know what you think about this down below in the comment section. Again, and like I said in the last video, I do think there's a greater chance that we rally. Like, let's say a 65% chance, 70% chance that Tesla stock goes higher tomorrow. But out of that, remaining 30% or so, if the 30% is true, and if I'm assigning 70% chance going higher, 30% chance of going lower, if we do go lower and that 30% chance is realized, I think the drop could be large. I think the drop could be 15 to 20%. So take that as you will. I hope you guys are ready. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. Are you bullish? Are you bearish? Do you have options on Tesla? Are you buying puts? Are you buying calls? Are you, adding to your positions here? Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. And to wrap up this video, yes, I have to do some after hours purchasing of Tesla. I can't squander Tesla in the 140s. Went ahead and bought 5 more shares at $708.30 per share. A last look at this position before we wrap up this video. Currently market value $12,076. Total return down 27%. Ouch. Down about $4,500. Average cost in this portfolio. Other portfolios own Tesla as well, but this is the one I'm trying to add to right now. It is average cost per share of $194.21 per share. Shares currently 85.24, and this is 26.35% of this portfolio. So again, let me know what you guys think about this situation down below in the comment section. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.